It's not clear exactly when this happened, which month or day, and why, but he thought he had been seen as less than what he wanted. He wasn't perfect anymore. Did this idea come from his own mind, or from others' opinions about things? She saw his imperfections, his weakness and faults. Somehow he was weak. His perfect image faded. They were living a normal life. Everything looked right, just about perfect. Through time, he revealed himself, brought to light over the years. Marriage, children, family relations, work, and everyday life. Now he was exposed in a way as being imperfect, with failings and shortcomings like most of us. It's normal to have strengths and weakness. On the other hand, his new fling had nothing but praise and validation for him. This was the reality he wanted. He would not accept or accommodate his wife anymore. Why should he now? His mistress understood him. He could be himself with her. This was the real self the world would soon find out about. He was unlike any other man, she told him. She told him he was the only man she ever met that tried to fix problems, smooth it over, and talk things through. Those are great qualities. Up on a pedestal, special and unique, the only man to fix things. What a big compliment it was, to be unlike any other man. It turns out that's true. He's unlike most people, we find out. But was this the key to his heart? Or possibly the right fuel for his then empty tank? She boosted his ego, an image of himself that had been shattered possibly. Had she put the color back into his delusion? Or validate his ego? Like air or helium filling a balloon? The way he wanted? He said he was a straightforward guy. Lying just complicates things. That's what he told his new love. But he continued on lying to his wife, to the very end. So honesty was only for a select few, it seemed, or only used as a way of impressing his mistress, as if he was beyond lying. She wrote to him in an office email, telling him she wanted to build something similar to what he had with his wife and cute little girls. They admit things escalated very quickly between them. Within a few days, their relationship became intimate. The life promises and vows he had with his wife were no longer important to him. Meanwhile, his wife planned for their son to be born. They had conceived a son together only a few weeks before. He had a new love interest, and they had so much in common. Why should he go on hearing about problems, relationship difficulties, daily expectations, financial stress, and disappointment from his wife and family disagreements, never-ending drama and conflict between his wife and family? He said he was the problem, but he wasn't going to fix himself or walk away. He wasn't going to remove himself. No, his new love saw him as perfect, unlike any other man. She said she could relate to him. She enjoyed talking to him, and she felt understood. So, therefore, his wife was the problem. And the kids, 3 and 4 years old, seemed lately to be taking on the same attitude towards him. He didn't like the way they started talking, like their mother. So, they had to go too. Then, he planned out the wretched act. He decided he would do it. He could live with the idea, and he would do it himself, with his own hands. Now, just try to imagine for a second, what kind of person who could live with this decision? What kind of person would be able to follow through with those actions? The life he had with his wife just wasn't important anymore. That's not the way he wanted to be seen or treated. He wasn't going to live with that. But he could move on just fine. Their perspective of him and his family was going to be silenced, and he could do it. He decided ahead of time, over weeks. That's what he would do. Of course, he would have to plan it out, think it through. It could get complicated, and he wanted to come out looking good. Getting away free and having his mistress afterwards. Walking away wasn't an option. Not the right way for him. He had to remove them. Then came the media, and it was time for him to look good again. His wife's negativity and judgment towards him, as he perceived it, was gone now. That part of his life was silenced forever. He would never have to hear it again, or admit to his lies and cheating. Her side of the story and her outlook was gone forever. He would just tell everyone she left. He was a good husband, she left. He would lie and pretend he knew nothing, as if he was just an innocent husband that had been abandoned. He would go on, free to sell their home on his own, and move on without any obligation to his wife and children, without waiting even a day. That very morning, while in the midst of his crime, he called the realtor. His future was clear, a fresh new start. Now, he could look good again, he thought. He figured no one would discover his lies and crime, or adultery. But he couldn't escape notice. There, in front of the cameras, something wasn't quite what you would expect. But he went ahead with the cameras and the interviews. How about a lie detector test? Sure, of course he would. After all, he was a great guy. He was so helpful. His mistress had even confirmed that. On her own, things were great with her. She told him he was the type to try and talk things through and solve problems. He was quiet, like a rock, strong and helpful, with good manners, just a great guy. No one would suspect he did something wrong. And actually, none of the friends or work colleagues suspected him. Everyone was surprised. He was a man that would fix things and talk things through. Even though he admits he never did that with his wife, he shut out all of his wife's attempts, letters, text messages, almost begging him to open up and talk things through. His wife had tried to keep the compliments coming, praising him publicly on social media for everyone to see, expressing in several media posts how thankful she was that he'd come into her life. It was confirmation that he was a great guy, the most amazing husband and father. Everything she could hope for. Even his daughter sang to him, a song for a hero. But sadly, and to the extreme opposite, he was far from a hero. It could be he wanted to be seen as a hero, but he couldn't pull it off in reality. He had no depth of character. That special trait or inborn instinct wasn't there. He had no deep feeling of love to protect his family. That may be one of the scariest parts of it all. The way he was able to keep his intentions a secret. His wife had no reason to escape since he gave no warning. It was too late now. He felt his wife saw him for what he was, unwilling to stand up for her. His family was going to come first for him, and they didn't like her. She was willing to work through it towards the end. She decided if he felt so strong about it, she would make an effort as things were. She still loved him. She had so much hope for their family together and the baby that she carried with her pregnancy of 4 months. Faults and all, she was going to make it work with him and his family. Unfortunately, she didn't know how extreme his faults were. She was in danger of the worst kind. She didn't deserve it. She was a forthcoming and outgoing person. She had a lot to give and always strived to pull through when life became difficult. She had a winning personality. Though she wasn't perfect, she never gave up. She had a quality which was hopeful and happy, but she had a vulnerability as well, and never had a chance to move forward and learn from her mistakes. But now, she wasn't safe. Sadly, she didn't know the depth of evil and danger she was dealing with, right in her own home. He poisoned her. With her trust and love, it was so easy for him to trick her without any notice. When she suffered, he would ignore it. Through the difficult times, she still loved him. She would do anything to save their marriage, almost blinded by her hope for a happy family together, that dream of a strong family and plans for their baby to come. She didn't see the treacherous man he was, so quiet, holding back, secretly planning until the end. He is a menace to the psyche, the most dreadful example of a human being. Things had escalated so fast, but she had her mind set to mend their problems and work on the issues for love and family. Meanwhile, he worked in his quiet way to get rid of her forever. Being needed or loved wasn't good enough for him. He didn't need her love. What is love after all? Was it meaningless at that point? Love wasn't what he wanted. She was useless to him. And worse than that, she saw him as imperfect. She had seen his weakness, his faults. He had no need for her anymore. He had the proper praise he wanted and deserved from the new woman in his life. She didn't like what she heard about his wife. All the expenses, the spacious home, the clothing, the work trips. His mistress wasn't like that. She didn't need things. She wasn't superficial. She wanted to help him get his finances back in control. She was very careful and had great credit. And she was into healthy eating. Life was great with her. All the passion and the fun activities he enjoyed. Now, he would plan for his future. He would deal with his problems by removing them. All four. He saw it as a win-win outcome. 2 birds with 1 stone. He would come out looking great and improve his financial balance as well. After all, he didn't want any debt. And who wants to pay alimony? He didn't need that. His new love had told him she was good with money. She had great credit. Life would be better with her, or at least he would be getting rid of his problem. Why couldn't he just walk away? Was it the money, the payments, alimony, or the shame of having to admit to his wife and everyone else, possibly finding out that he was cheating? Could that be a problem for him? He said he had to be able to afford an apartment for himself and his own vehicle, but most of all, he wanted to have his mistress. That wasn't possible with his wife and children still around. He figured that out somehow, either by himself, or maybe a demon whispered the idea in his ear, or an evil spirit, or darkness. But his family had a difficult time getting along with her as well, so he figured they would understand. They would stick up for him. They wouldn't put him down. They knew he was a great guy, and they had nothing but praise and admiration for him. They would love him no matter what. At least he had them in his corner. The plan would have been perfect if only no one had noticed and wondered so soon what happened to his wife and kids that morning. Then comes reality. Very quickly, we find out true care and true concern do exist. He sees it knocking on his door, the concern knocking, and rings up the bell. A caring friend comes looking, worried for his pregnant wife and toddlers. A fierce concern and determination to quickly find and help her dear friend. It must have been like a thunderbolt striking him so fast when he realized, while rushing to cover his tracks that morning, that the search was on and he had run out of time for his sick plan. But Shanann had many friends, and concern spread very quickly. Meanwhile, while he continued covering his tracks that morning, the search was on at the house. Nicole Atkinson had brought Shanann home the previous night, not leaving the driveway until she saw Shanann enter the home safely. Atkinson came to look for her friend Shanann the next morning, but things quickly became clear that afternoon when she saw her friend's things, her car, her purse, her phone, her wedding ring, all were there in the home. Concern soon became shock, then despair. It was clear then things weren't going to end well. Atkinson is the kind of friend we all hope to have. She's the light in this sad, dark story. This may be the one thing that Chris hadn't thought of or planned for, the true care of a friend and true friendship that comes from the heart. Is this the one thing that ruined him? That fumbled up his evil plan? Like a force that comes so fast, surprising a sinister character, knocking at the door, at the same time knocking him down with a blow so hard. It's actually the thing he didn't have. It was the lacking attribute in his character, care and concern, compassion, lacking, which allowed him to do what he did and come out stone cold the next day, ready to face the world, calm and cool with a smile. But it didn't look good. The true concern of Atkinson, alongside the crumbling lies of Chris, was evident to most people. He looked so slimy. He had no concern for his missing wife and daughters. It was a sickening sight to see. If he had any heart or feeling, he couldn't have committed that wretched act, and his choices would have been different, with some true care and concern. How and why did he think poisoning his wife was okay? People wonder if he confided in anyone before he went through with it. Is there a chance he told someone that maybe someone had a hint of what he had planned? Why did he think his plan was okay? Why write a note in North Carolina as if he was worried about his own safety? Meanwhile, he was poisoning his wife. He wasn't the one in danger. He was the danger. The shock and questions never end. Why and how could a loving father do this? The perfect husband. Just look at the photos and the video, everyone says. Some people think it's not possible, the way he said it happened. His family have had a hard time accepting his own admission of guilt. They cling onto a narrative, trying to make him out to be the good guy. It's their own never-ending desperation, when what they should do is move on, but it may not be possible for them. In life, we all come in and have to learn to adapt. Some can do this well, or so it looks. Others have a difficult time and may need more help. We're not given the same circumstances, not dealt the same hand, but we're supposed to make the best of it and adapt in a positive way, which may look good from the outside, but more importantly, which is balanced. Healthy versus evil or harmful. In this case, we see the ultimate evil act committed, yet at the same time, his family praised him regardless. Imagine the sick irony of it, sitting behind bars and knowing he's been caught for his crime, yet at the same time, having nothing but love and approval coming from his family, in light of and regardless of the very evil and diabolical acts he had committed only a few days ago. This was the complete destruction of a family, innocent people. These acts are part of him, not separate from him. He rationalized and planned it. He did it because he wanted to. It was all part of his plan. The vision of the future he wanted motivated him. The crime was the path to get the life he wanted. It was the way to have what he wanted and to get rid of what he didn't want. It was all about him, with no respect for the rights of others. This was a fault in his mind and character. It could start off by expecting people to do what you want, or telling others what to think and what to do. Not thinking or doing what he wanted had become a problem. But he was the quiet type as far as we know, not outwardly overbearing, like some people can be, bossy and abusive for all to see, unashamed to openly push their own agenda, their judgment, their ideas, beliefs, or desires onto others. He didn't show that side to his friends and work colleagues or family. He wasn't that type. But ultimately, he took it all away from 4 people. He decided for them. He silenced them and took away their identity, their lives, that unique spark of individuality each one of them embodied was ended just because he decided he didn't want that anymore. He wasn't going to coexist or find some balance, live and let live. To say he was overbearing is not enough. Obviously, he's an abomination to freedom, goodness, and life, to family and trust, the rights of his wife to have her life, her children to have their own life, their own story together as the years would go on. He decided to take that away, but no one took his life away. His freedom is gone now, but he has a life behind bars. He can still communicate, read and write, and most likely continue on with his distorted way of dealing with people. He distances himself by calling it an evil force and by saying it was a tragedy that took his family. But he needs to look at what's right and wrong. He chose the wrong action, thinking it was okay to take away the lives of 4 people first, then quickly being able to move on and to expect forgiveness. Will forgiveness help him to forget or move on? Did he think only his life was important, or his happiness and his finances? Does it matter if people like to have a beautiful home? Is it better to strive to have a small and ugly home? Isn't it natural to build a beautiful, strong, safe home for your family? Is it wrong for a woman to spend time working, hours spilling over to make ends meet, being pregnant and worn out from the natural demands of a growing baby? It's a time to relax, take it easy, have some help when energy is low. Shouldn't a young mother have support through the hard times, physical and emotional support from family, instead of wearing her down? Years of wisdom teaches older generations to support their children, even from afar. Moral support goes a long way. When you can't be there in person, at least be there in a supportive way when things get tough, as things do for everyone. Isn't it easier and better to be supportive? Finances and relationships aren't easy to balance. It's a reality for most people. It's basic. Let me know what you all think about that. Some don't buy into allergies. They think it's just overreacting. They don't believe in sickness. They say it's exaggerated. How about being supportive? Do they believe in that? We all have times in our life when we need to be supported. It's a good thing to be there, and that's something we see in life and hopefully learn through the years. Now, as it should be, he will be locked up for the rest of his life. No more freedom. Every day will be the same. He'll be locked up forever. But where does forgiveness fit into this tragedy? What do you make of his newfound religion, now that he's behind bars? We hear that he writes many letters and corresponds endlessly. But his lies reveal the truth. All you have to do is listen or read. His wicked deeds, his deceit, pride, and foolishness are a sad and scary example of a relationship gone wrong. But now, in the end, we can see Shanann was married to an imbalanced man. She made the best of it. But what chance did she have against the wretched mind of Chris Watts?